It's so great to be with the cyber hitchhiker. His name is actually Vaughn Luck. And before I just hand over to you, Vaughan, I'm just going to read your bio so that everyone can get a thorough idea of who you are and what it is that you do for the kingdom. Right, let's go. Vaughn Luck, ex-drug addict and crime lord, involved in syndicated crime for 17 years. He now serves the Lord. He has worked with many missions-based organizations, including Doctors for Life and Frontline Worship. Currently, he's a senior member and servant leader at the Cares Church in Durban for just over 8 years. He is on the steering committee for the National Alliance for Life, which is an umbrella organization working with churches across South Africa regarding pro-life and pregnancy crisis issues. He's also the director of Cares, a foundation which is an NPO that works in the impoverished communities, providing relief in times of crisis for those in need. He works with over 80 churches in various ministers, forums in the Indian community, including the Phoenix Ministers Forum and Verulam Ministers Forum, as well as being a member of the Verulam Youth Forum, which is made up of the youth from 80 churches in Durban and Verulam areas. That Verulam word is throwing me. Verulam. Am I saying that correctly?
Verulam.
Verulam. Right.
There we go.
He has been involved with over 19 missions trips throughout Southern Africa, including Zambia, Malawi, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Swaziland, and Lesotho. He has 2 master's degrees in digital marketing and graphic design and owns 2 companies, Decent Digital Solutions and What the Digital, which provides various digital hosting management, development, and content creation services to businesses, content creators, NPOs, and faith-based organizations involved in community-based projects. He does presentations, seminars, workshops, with a focus on drug addiction and other addictions, pro-life issues, and digital evangelism. He also does workshops and seminars focusing on our digital space and how to use our platforms and on the dangers associated with our rapidly advancing technology, including AI and social media. He has a weekly program on the award-winning digital radio station, Joy Radio, and he runs a podcast called Crossfire, where he challenges secular views with biblical theology and speak about the importance of the Christian understanding and how to explain their faith and understanding with a biblical worldview. He does presentations on ethics and specifically ethics in journalism and the media and how we as Christian content creators and consumers of content should use our screen time and creative talents to take the Great Commission to the digital space. Vaughan, you're so welcome.
Nadia, thank you. I almost fell asleep there with all of that information. I did tell you to use as much or as little. I think I should have rather just told you to use as little as possible.
That's of it's really good.
Yeah, it's good. But you know what? I cringe when I hear that because, you know what? It's so far removed from who I actually am. I'm just a servant in the kingdom.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the work that you do for the kingdom. It's all that matters at the end of the day is what have we done for the Lord's, for the Lord's sake. But you and I are connecting here today to speak on abortion. How are you involved with the abortion crisis in South Africa?
Right. So we've got to, I prefer to look at it as a family crisis. Because 66% of all households in South Africa are fatherless or have got absent fathers where the father is there but not there. You've got grandmothers running households because the mothers are not there. You've got children-led households where the oldest child is looking after the younger siblings because they've all been abandoned. And I believe that there's an ethical point of this where the moral fabric of what a family is all about is being eroded. And we are being told that family is not important. And unfortunately, it is, whether you're a Christian or not, family is very important. You wouldn't be here and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our moms and dads getting together. And what is happening in South Africa is you've got this push where instead of teaching a person that they're valuable, instead of teaching a young girl that she's precious, she's got purpose, that she's got meaning in her life, no matter what her background, culture, her cultural standing, her societal standing, whether she's rich, poor, on the street, it doesn't matter. It's an attitude. And when you start teaching people that they're not worth anything, you're just a speck of dust, you're randomly floating through the universe, you've got about 80 years if you're lucky on Earth, and then nothing. Now, I don't really mind if you are not Christian. I don't really care what your walk of life is. But I've come from the darkest of places when I was involved with syndicated crime and doing the most craziest things, not just to people, but to myself as well, for a very, very long time. I got to see another side of the earth or the world that most people are not really aware of. And that is how there's this underworld of crime going on, and people are just commodities, especially when it comes to human trafficking. Life is nothing but the price tag that is attached to you. And even when I was in those darkest spaces, when I was alone at night in my bed, I knew, if I had to be honest with myself, I knew that there was something more. That is why, as human beings, we've always got this, where do I come from? Who am I? Where am I going? It's the age-old 3 questions that get asked, whether you're an atheist, whether you are a secular person, whether you're a Christian, Anglican, Catholic, Jew, Nazi, whatever you want to be. You always will be, when you're on your own, asking these questions. Because we were created, whether you believe it's God or intelligent. This all brings me back to what you said about abortion. We've got a crisis amongst our youth in South Africa. When you get told that you're nothing, you're worthless, you tend to act that way. So drug abuse becomes an issue, crime becomes an issue, murder, rape, girls falling pregnant from the age of 11 onwards, because that's the stats in South Africa. Under the age of 19, you've got about 90,000 registered mothers every year, schoolgirls. Then you've got, between the ages of 11 and 14, 1,600 girls being registered as mothers. And then between the ages of 11 and 12, I think the last stats was about 600 girls, just over 11, 12 years old. I mean, the one newspaper article that stood out to me in January, because they always go, oh, the New Year babies are all being born now. And the one mother was 13, giving birth on the 1st of Jan 2026 to her child. That is a child giving birth to a child. Now, abortion's been legal in South Africa since 1997, Termination of Pregnancies Act. Any young girl, any age, whether you're young or old, can walk into any clinic, any government facility, and they can ask for an abortion up until 12 weeks, and they can have a chemically induced abortion. We've got a society that's grown up with abortion being legal now, the Gen Z, since 1997. So if you grow up and everything that you hear is the baby is just a clump of cells, you can kill it, it's fine. For the girls that have grown up thinking abortion is okay, for the boys that are pushing the girls to have abortions, for the parents that are doing the same thing, you've got to realize that this is not an infinite thing. It's a finite choice. It is done and dusted once it's done. Worldwide, we've got, 70 million abortions, Nadia, every year. And according to the...
It was 73 or 75 million abortions last year.
Exactly. It's the leading cause of death in the world. If you combine cancer, drug overdoses, alcohol-related car accidents, you can group all of that together. Abortion dwarfs that. So we are aborting almost the entire population of South Africa every year worldwide, if you want to look at it that way. These are lives. They are potential beings that are not given the opportunity to live. And it's a crisis because of the education system, what we are teaching our kids, what we are deeming as socially acceptable or ethically acceptable. If I go back to the 70s, when my young mother, who was 15 at the time, fell pregnant with me with a guy who was 9 years older than her and was forced to give me up for adoption. When you spoke about abortion back in those times, it was like, no, only if it's a medical emergency or if you are raped, do you have an abortion. Anyone in the world would have told you that, whether you were Christian or not. Now you talk to people about abortion, fast forward, I'm 47 now, fast forward 47 years, and all of a sudden it's become a social norm. And now you've got everything just falling apart. And instead of asking the right questions, we tend to just look at the stats and go, well, what have we done wrong? I mean, it's like the government, they had a conference in 2018 in Port Elizabeth because they couldn't understand why 58% of all abortion was still illegal after they made it legal in 1997. They were like, guys, there's something wrong here. All our girls are still going to backstreet abortion clinics, and they are coming into the hospitals with basically excessive bleeding and botched things that have gone wrong because of the backstreet abortionist not being qualified. Forget about the baby that's dying now. We're just concentrating on the mother who's going to a backstreet abortionist. It's legal, but you still got 60% of abortions in South Africa still going to backstreet clinics. The social development guys got together, the Department of Education got together, and they had this live conference in 2018 in Port Elizabeth, and they asked the questions, well, why is this happening? And you know what they did? They didn't go, okay, well, maybe it's because we're making it okay, socially acceptable to kill your baby as a means of not having a child or as a means of just getting rid of what you are perceiving as a problem. They went, no, we're educating the kids wrong. Let's start introducing more comprehensive sexuality education. But we'll still tell the guys that if nothing works, you can still go to the clinic and have an abortion. Nadia, for all the girls that I speak to, trust me on this, when you speak to them about abortion, they say to me, Vaughan, if it's legal, who cares where we go? We walk around the locations and the townships and the informal settlements and the rural areas, and we've got all of these stickers on all the poles and the buildings going quick abortions with a cell number. They're not worried about that being illegal. They go, okay, that must be a medical doctor that's doing it. They know what they're doing. It's closer to my home than traveling by combi all the way to a clinic. Let me just go to this person in a little shack around the corner or down a little alleyway somewhere, and I'll just quickly go have an abortion. If they're over 12 weeks, then they're definitely going to go have a backstreet abortion. So I think we're teaching our kids the wrong things. Nadia, we should be focusing on teaching our kids how to be special, valued people who know that they've got a plan and a purpose in this world, that they weren't created for nothing. They have a divine calling on their lives, whether they like it or not. And like I said earlier, everyone, when you're alone by yourself, you're not talking about, oh, I'm nothing, I'm floating through the universe, and when I die, I die. You're thinking by yourself, even if you don't mention it to anyone, in your heart, you're going, why am I here? There must be something more. There can't just be this.
You're touching on an important element of the conversation, because you're saying we should be teaching them this rather than this. And I want to clarify that we should be teaching them. When we say we, I mean you as their mom.
Yes.
As their
it starts at home with the parents.
Getting back to when you started your conversation on the family, the nuclear family, we can't say, oh, it's the fault. And I'm not saying this is what you are saying, but maybe you're listening. Someone's listening here and saying, oh, okay, so it's the comprehensive sexual education. This is the problem. You see, I knew it was the problem. Look, the government can come with anything they want. Any institution can come with anything they want. If you are discipling and raising your child in the way he should go, he will not depart from the truth. That's what the scriptures tell us, right? So it's up to us as Christian parents, very important, not worldly parents. They don't think like Christians.
Yes.
They don't uphold the law like we do, but Christian parents, to raise our children in the convictions of moral ethics and, the moral law of God and all that. So I just wanted to point that out. But now, how is it that you are involved with what's happening with abortions? I mean, who are you, Vaugn, to have any opinion on abortion?
Right. Firstly, I'm a guy. I'm not a girl. And that I get a lot of flack for. But you're a guy, you know nothing that goes on with our bodies, really. I was once inside a girl's body, by the way, before I was born. And all I ask is, when I was in the womb, which is supposed to be the safest place on the planet, but it's now the most dangerous place to be. I mean, that little penny there to drop into most people's hearts, that the womb is supposed to be a safe space. Now it's not anymore, is crazy for me. But I digress. Look, I'm just going to say this before I start, because I know what you're wanting me to say here. You don't need to have a crazy story, especially if you're a Christian, to be pro-life. I don't even like calling myself pro-life. I call myself a biblical Christian. I follow the biblical mandate of the Great Commission, because even if I save that child from abortion, is that child going to grow up and choose Jesus as their personal Lord and Savior and go to heaven? If not, they are still going to hell. So what difference does it make? If I'm not affecting that family, that mother, that child that gets saved, the father that's involved, the immediate family, with the gospel message. So for me, it's a tool. But as you can hear, I'm extremely passionate. And that's because, not just because I come from a real crazy lifestyle of living in darkness for 17 years, but like I was alluding to earlier, back in the 70s, my mom came from the wrong side of the tracks, if I can put it that way. She was from a blue-collar working family. And my birth father, his family owned a lot of farms in the Eastern Cape. I don't know all the stories, but it was an open adoption. My adopted mother told me the story from a young age when I asked her the questions, and she just elaborated more as I got older. And she told me the story because they were all from the Eastern Cape. Even my my adopted grandparents, my real grandparents, knew the family secondhand where I came from birth. And my mom fell pregnant with me when she was 15. She gave birth to me when she was barely 16. I was 6 weeks premature. I was in an incubator for the first 6 months of my life, fighting to just survive. I was the size of the size of this, size 3 shoebox, and I was translucent. You could see my organs. And she fell pregnant, and she loved this guy. He was in his mid-20s. His parents thought that she fell pregnant because she wanted his money, because he came from a rich family. They approached her parents, put very much pressure on her not to abort me. Thank the Lord for the law. No offense, but if abortion was legal in the 70s, I would not be here talking to you today. I would have not had the chance to grow up and live. Did I have an amazing life? No, I grew up in a very divided home. My dad was violent, abusive. My mom was loving. He was an alcoholic. I had no money for school shoes, for school clothes. I grew up in a very poor environment. I didn't have anything in life, but it didn't matter to me. All I wanted to do was live my life as a child. The circumstances didn't matter. But my mom fell pregnant. She had to run away from her house to a farm in the Eastern Cape up in Queenstown, to where her gran was staying, give birth to me there. She gave birth to me 6 weeks premature. I then got taken away from her immediately, rushed through to the East London hospital, and that was the last contact I had with my birth parents. I don't even know where they are today. I've never gone to go look for them because I've never felt a burning desire to do it. I am starting to feel like I need to, though, not for the reasons you would think, because they are fine. My reasoning now is, hang on, I know Jesus. Does my birth mother know Jesus? Does my birth father know Jesus? Should I go and find them to see if maybe I can infect them with this gospel message of hope and love, that I might see them in heaven with me? More than anything else, because I'm fine without them. But she gave me up for adoption. Through all of that, I had the opportunity to accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior, and I sit here today talking to you. Now, that's not the full story, though, because people go, okay, yeah, well, great, that's really motivational. You still don't really know much about abortion. You were saved from abortion. Well, let me tell you a little bit of a story about what happened to me when I was pre-Christ in my heart days. When I was living this crazy life as a drug dealer and doing all the crazy things that I was doing, I met a girl. I've never loved someone so much in all of my life. We loved each other with the core and fiber of our beings. And all I had in my head was, I saw this white picket fence, the house. I wanted my son to grow up, take over the empire from me when he was old enough, teach him all the ways of syndicated crime, just like the mafia do in the movies. And I wanted that kind of a family. I remember when she came and said to me, Vaugn, I'm pregnant. And I did like triple back somersaults almost. Nadia, I was the most happiest person on the planet. I'm going to have a child. I'm going to be a father. This is going to be my blood, my familia. It's going to be the first blood that I know because I'm adopted. This is going to have my blood flowing through its veins. And I could see that she wasn't, I don't know, I thought maybe, I don't know what I thought, because I just went, you know what, I need to be there for her and support her. She would have had everything. My child would have had everything. Didn't matter where the money was coming from, but they would have been sorted forever. So it's not like she had to worry about anything. And I just saw, like, during the first couple of weeks of her being pregnant, that she didn't seem happy. Little did I know that she was, from the beginning, when she fell pregnant, her mom was saying to her, listen, do you really want to have this child? Do you understand that if you have this child, you are then bonded to this guy, whether you get married or not, for life. He's going to be in your life as the father of this child. We know how bad this guy is, Do we really want another one of him running around? That's basically my child being put on trial on what potentially could happen in its life because their father was a bad person. And my child suffered the consequences for that. If I was a good person, maybe she wouldn't have had the abortion, but she had the abortion. Her mother paid for the abortion. When she told me this, it obviously destroyed our relationship. I couldn't recover. And that broke me as a man. It broke her as a girl as well, as a lady. And our relationship was, we couldn't get back together again after that. I couldn't even look at her. So I left. And it physically affects me with wanting now to have a family. I have come full circle when I was saved from abortion through adoption and given the chance to live. I then went and had to live through losing my child to abortion and now suffering the consequences afterward. I know firsthand how abortion can affect a relationship and break things up completely. We as Christians should be commenting on social issues if it goes against the Bible and it goes against God's principles. Every year, 260,000 South Africans are aborted. Little babies are aborted. Mothers are turned into murderers. Whether they know it or not yet, they do know it eventually as life goes on. 6.5 million babies killed since 1997 through abortion. And we've got an adoption crisis in South Africa. We've got families that all they want is to have a baby and they can't, and they want to adopt. And they are willing to sit on a waiting list and pay all the exorbitant fees to adopt a child. But yet we have got babies that are just being killed. The two most common problems when we look at why is abortion happening in South Africa and worldwide, the two that top the list, unplanned pregnancy and poverty. As Christians, surely we know more about life and eternal life on a deeper level than most people. And we're supposed to be funny about that. We're supposed to be loving about that. James says that through our works, people will know that we are saved. We don't get saved through our works. But you've got people that fall through the cracks. You've got girls that get themselves into situations. And instead of running to the church, they are running to the abortion clinic.
Thank you for that, Vaughan. I think it's been a great conversation, truly a conversation that I think will impact the listeners. And thank you for shining a light on abortion. Thank you for being someone that makes a difference. I hope that you are encouraged, maybe a little bit of a fire fanning into flame in your spirit, coming alive, saying, you know what, I'm tired of sitting in church Sunday after Sunday. I feel like my faith is dying because there's no action. And that is what will happen. If you don't do anything, your faith will die. It will shrivel up. So I hope this conversation has encouraged you. So share it with someone if it has encouraged you.